Hello there. What is going on, everyone? Darth Jar Jar, is he real? Can he hurt you? Well, he is kind of, sort of. We have just had a recent trailer drop on for Disney Plus by Star Wars and Lego. It is a new Star Wars adventure called Rebuild the Galaxy. It starts September 13th. This is sort of a Star Wars What If. So if you're familiar with Marvel's very, very popular What If series, this is a Star Wars What If as told by Lego with their Lego brand of humor applied to the Star Wars universe. Now, Lego stories aren't necessarily canon. There's been a lot of things that have shown up in Lego Star Wars shorts and Lego Star Wars specials and movies that aren't canon. They're meant to be sort of like a side universe, their own kind of offshoot. They're just fun stories. They're just Star Wars Lego for the fun of it. And this is definitely doing some of that. It's definitely taking a look at some fan theorized things, as well as the very, very popular story of Darth Jar Jar, which was kind of a thing depending on who you talk to. We'll go into that a little bit. I want to show you guys some of the real interesting kind of flip-flops and big changes they're making to this Star Wars galaxy. And also we're going to ask the question, what impacts might this have on gaming, specifically our tabletop games that I cover. I do talk a lot about tabletop games and Star Wars on this channel, so if you're interested in either of those, you're in the right place. We're also got a couple days left to enter to win that big giveaway for the $25 Amazon gift card. If you want to have a chance to enter to win that, you just have to be a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my videos. It's as simple as that. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the things that are going to happen in this series. So basically there is a big, a special Lego brick that messes everything up, and our heroes have to kind of go into this whacked out time and fix everything. And it changes an awful lot of stuff. From this trailer, we're seeing, a bunch of Imperial AT-ATs, or AT-AT walkers, get flip-flopped into having the Rebel logo on them. They switch from Hoth to what looks like Mustafar, and you're seeing a lot of sort of role reversals in this trailer. There are a lot of, I don't know if all of these are in like the exact same what if they're the exact same time, but it definitely looks like a lot of bad guys have turned good and good guys have turned bad. They go from, that battle at Geonosis and to flip-flopping, and like all there's almost like a Transformer Matrix-y type effect where all the bricks kind of separate and rebuild, and all the Geonosians are now Jedi instead of the Jedi fighting the Geonosians. Now, obviously, this is a very different time from a time where the AT-ATs were attacking Hoth base, or Echo base on Hoth. So this obviously is taking place over multiple different time periods. It seems, as we go forward, there are X-Wing TIE fighters, which is a really nice, kind of almost like a throwback to Uglies, and I feel like there's one of the things that they're trying to do here is address a little bit of canon stuff or like old canon stuff from the EU, the Legends stuff now, and also addressing the fan theories. There's Ewok bounty hunters, where these Ewoks are flying Y-wings, and Ewoks piloting is already, it's kind of a thing. There are some spacefaring Ewoks in some of the books. If you read the Aftermath trilogy, there was like an Ewok slicer in there, if I remember correctly. So, it's not like too outlandish, but people generally don't expect to see Ewoks out in space. And towards the end of this trailer, we are getting a black and red, really groovy looking Millennium Falcon come down on what looks like, it's not Tatooine, because you've got palm trees and stuff there, but on some kind of mostly desert oasis style planet, and faces our heroes. And as the doors open up, you get Jar Jar Binks, but clad in a very dark Sith looking outfit, when igniting a red lightsaber, threatening to Misa gonna hurts you, Misa gonna use the dark side. Wait, no, that's not even, that's not Jar Jar. He's not like it easy. He's on like the last time he's gonna get you doing the lightsaber. Kind of something like that. So, pardon the Jar Jar impersonation. I try to limit those things to like once a year, and I think I just burned up all my quota in today's video. Now, why is this so interesting and not just silly fun? Well, for those of you who are new to the concept, Darth Jar Jar has been a kind of a big fan theory for a very long time. As rumor would have it, George Lucas did initially plan to give us a big curveball in episode 2 by taking Jar Jar Binks and revealing him to be the big bad evil of the prequel trilogy as a secret Sith Lord. Now, this is not something that ended up happening, as the rumors would imply, after all of the extreme negative feedback for Jar Jar Binks and fan revoltings that happened after episode 1. And yes, the older generation, like myself, were very spoiled brats about Jar Jar Binks, and a lot of people, and I was a little bit a part of that. I wasn't a big fan of Jar Jar Binks after episode 1. I will admit that. Although I do stand by The Phantom Menace as being a fantastic movie for so many things that I do like about it, that it does very, very well. I think it's a great Star Wars film in retrospect. And, and I'm happy to rewatch it many times. There's certain parts I'm not crazy about. I'm not big on the pod race, but I really like the opening. I think it's one of the best first 20-minute sequences of just about any movie. I love the opening to it. And so it's a great film, but yeah. So Jar Jar Binks reportedly was set to be revealed as a Sith Lord in episode 2. There are also reports of people who've talked to Ahmed Best, the actor who portrayed Jar Jar Binks, many years later, and have gotten sort of he's not allowed to actually say it, but he, and this is, again, third-party reporting, or maybe even fourth-party reporting, but that he sort of indicated that the rumors were a lot more true than people think, and that George made some on-the-spot corrections and changed, and some on-the-spot changes, and instead introduced Count Dooku. And while, whatever you think of this theory, there are pieces of evidence that point to it being at least partially true. There are a lot of breakdowns, and if you search YouTube for some of these theory of Darth Jar Jar, you're going to find some fantastic breakdowns that, and some of them are really good points, and in some ways they're kind of grasping at straws, but there are certain things that Jar Jar Binks does that indicate proficiency with the Force, like some of the leaps. I mean, you can certainly say maybe he's just acrobatic because Gungans are perhaps more athletic, and that certainly works. But there's Maxwell Blood the Force, and so he knows about the Force. There's a lot of things he knows that he shouldn't really know, and so there's ways to break it down and look at it as though there were signs all along. We also have a history of George Lucas surprising us in episode 2 of a trilogy. In the case of Empire Strikes Back, it was the big buildup of, I'm going to find this great warrior. Oh my God, it's Yoda. Oh, and at the time it was very, very surprising because nobody knew who or what Yoda was when the Empire Strikes Back first came out. And then Luke is looking for him and stuff, and you think, oh, this little goofball is here kind of clowning the whole thing up. Get out of here, you goofball, only to find out, oh my gosh, that was Yoda the whole time. And it was a big curveball at the time. If he had done that with Jar Jar Binks, it would have been an even bigger curveball because you had all of episode 1 to build Jar Jar Binks up, and then episode 2 to finally have this surprise reveal at the end of episode 2, which instead turned out to be Count Dooku. And it kind of makes sense also because all of a sudden you introduce this big bad in episode 2 that we have no history with, and Count Dooku being an all-new character. So it might have worked out a lot better if there were a Darth Jar Jar. There's definitely some signs that point to it being true. And on top of that, regardless of whether or not it's true, it's been a popular fan theory. There's lots of Darth Jar Jar art that's out there. If you Google it, be careful. You might find some crazy stuff. So, I mean, I would do it maybe from home. Don't do it from work, right? But there's statues of Darth Jar Jar. I've actually reviewed some. I have some somewhere laying around here of Jar Jar Binks with a lightsaber, just because it ended up not happening. So it ends up just being like this really fun theory. And now they're kind of making it in this new show. So Star Wars Rebuild the Galaxy is actually finally going to pay tribute to a long-standing fan theory of Darth Jar Jar, and it looks like it's going to be very, very fun. This is coming out this fall in September 13th. So if you have Disney Plus already, you can check that out. Now, what impact is this going to have on gaming? I would initially say probably not much. I wouldn't expect pre-existing games to start incorporating content like this. I don't expect to see like an expansion for Star Wars Rebellion that has rebels with AT-ATs. I wouldn't expect to see, Geonosian Jedi Knights in Star Wars Legion. I wouldn't expect to see, X-Wing TIE fighters in Legion, or I mean in X-Wing, or Armada, or any of that type of stuff. I don't expect these things to happen. As a matter of fact, I don't even expect to see Darth Jar Jar or a Black Millennium Falcon, even though if anything were going to happen, I think this would be the one, because it's definitely the most pronounced and has the most resonance with the community. But I don't expect that to happen anytime soon. I think it definitely could happen in the future. And I think since it's been already kind of approved through Lucasfilm and Star Wars to have it happen with Lego Star Wars, there's always that slim chance that the door is now opened for more Star Wars What If content. And if we get a proper Star Wars What If that's not really built around the jokes of Lego Star Wars, but is more centered in reality, and I think Ahsoka and Star Wars Rebels have given us the world within worlds, world between worlds, you definitely have opportunities to do a proper Star Wars What If that's a little bit more serious. I think that one would be a lot more likely to make its way into Star Wars tabletop gaming, but I think this definitely also could. I think this might be something, if this were to make its way into tabletop gaming, I think it would be in the form of maybe an all-new game, or maybe even a Lego-specific game if Lego wanted to make some kind of board game, or partner with an existing company. I could totally see like a minis company doing some kind of, cross partnership with Lego and Star Wars to create some type of tabletop gaming experience using, everything from the real worlds to the other Lego Star Wars properties. And Akbar used to fly like a modified Clone Wars fighter called the Daisy May, which would have been really cool. Like, there's a lot of, and then the Free Thinkers and all of this other Lego Star Wars stuff that does kind of exist within that Lego IP. That shared Star Wars Lego IP. I think that there's definitely possibilities to incorporate all of this, especially if you still had Lego Dimensions. If you guys remember that video game thing, that also had a physical component to it. It was very cool. So there are some remote possibilities, but I think the chances for this type of stuff coming directly to our tabletops is pretty slim. But if it were going to happen, I would predict that the coolest thing, let's just say a company like Asmodee gets the rights and they decide they're going to either have, Atomic Mass Games incorporate some of this stuff into our games, or have another studio make a new game or something like that, with this twisted whack out, crossover world that we get here. If something like that were to happen, I would predict it to be one of these epic April Fool's jokes that turns out to be reality. Like on April 1st, 2026 or something like that, they were announced like, oh, Darth Jar Jar is coming to Star Wars Legion. And then all of a sudden, the rumors don't go away on April 2nd. And they're like, pre-order page is still up. And they're like, wait, how is the pre-order page still up? And my credit card got charged. Why is this shipping? And you find out it's actually real. I could see something like that happening someday in the future, maybe. And I say that because Fantasy Flight Games did something very similar to that. With Arkham Horror, there was like a popular April Fool's joke that was so popular they actually decided to make it a real thing. So maybe it's possible, but I still wouldn't put money on it at this point, because licensing is kind of crazy. And I'm actually surprised that Lego gets away with as much as they get away with, but the nature of their agreement with Lucasfilm is probably very different than other companies that make tabletop games. So that's my 2 cents on it. It's a pretty cool trailer. You should definitely check out the whole trailer if you want, but I think I brought you some of the highlights. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Big thanks to my patrons. You guys are out of this world and help make this whole channel possible. I will talk to you later. May the Force be with you. Live long and prosper. Be excellent to each other. Party on, dudes, and always wash your socks. Have a fantastic day.